All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Bring Your Own LLM and Use Generative AI Your Way session. Thank you for attending. So we're going to be talking about a feature in Salesforce called the Open Connector in this session. It's all about generative AI and building custom things. So with that, my name's Darvish. I'm a product manager on the Einstein Foundations team, and I look after a number of features, bring your own large language model and some models API things and whatnot. So again, it's a pleasure to have all of you. Look forward to a fast-paced 20-minute session. We're going to get in and show some fun demos. And I'd like to introduce my colleague here.
Hi everyone, my name is Chanu Joseph, and I'm a senior corporate counsel on the AI legal team. Part of my job focuses on partnering with product to develop legally compliant products and services and bring them to market.
Thanks, Chanu. And so I think, honestly, I've been presenting at these kind of events for quite a while, and this is the first time I've had the luxury of having a corporate counsel person on stage with me in a developer session. So it's kind of a unique twist. But what we're talking about, essentially, as you'll see in the session, is this ability that we're opening up to bring any generative AI foundation model connected into Salesforce and use it for building custom things. Therefore, I thought, what a great opportunity to bring Chanu, who's worked really closely with me over the last 6 months or so, to be able to do this for customers. So, forward-looking statement. Now, we all know what this is about. Chanu probably could talk about it all day long. I will just say, one thing that I want to point out is that this feature that you're going to be seeing in this session, actually, the forward-looking statement definitely applies because it hasn't actually shipped yet. It's in development right now. What you're going to be seeing today is fully working code. However, this will start to show up in your production orgs approximately 3 to 4 weeks from now, right? So I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that. Do you want to say anything else about that?
And just because the attorney's here doesn't mean I'm providing legal or any type of financial advice. Had to add that disclaimer in there, so yeah, just so we're cleared.
Oh, darn. Okay, just a couple of slides to set the stage for what we're going to talk about. So, there's essentially 3 key paradigms for doing generative AI in Salesforce, right? On the far left, we have the sort of out-of-the-box turnkey features, right? As an admin, you go in and turn something on in Salesforce, and you can start using it right away. And our teams have invested a lot of time and energy into building those out-of-the-box features. I encourage you to check those out, use them when applicable. Then we have our builder products, and then on the far right, the more sort of pro code, if you will, developer experience. And what we're going to be focusing on in this session kind of crosses between those second 2 categories. Now, I will say there's not a lot of actual code in this session because what we're really focused on is connecting a model endpoint via API to the system. But the second half of the story I'll be talking about here in one of the other theaters at 3 o'clock, which is then taking what you're going to learn in this session and actually using the models API to build fully custom components. So anyway, if you're interested, if you find this session interesting, you consider coming to that one as well. So on this, I just want to say that the strategy we have with our AI stack is that regardless of where the model lives or what platform it's on or which large language model it is, they're all coming through this common AI architecture that we have. And the thing about this is that even if you bring your own large language model to the table for your use case, it will still be going through the Einstein trust layer for things like data masking and toxicity detection, et cetera. So just know that behind the scenes of everything we're going to be showing, there is this architecture that includes the Einstein trust layer just to offer a little more protection for your data. Okay, so about 5 months ago, 6 months ago, we released a new feature called Bring Your Own LLM. And when we went to market with that initially, it was focused around OpenAI. Back in June, I think it was, we added the ability to natively connect to Google Gemini and to Anthropic Claude using Amazon Bedrock as the platform. What we're introducing, though, at this event is that you see there's a 5th tile there on the bottom that just says bring your LLM, right? And this is the one that I presented to Chanu a while back, and I said, how about if we just let customers connect whatever they want? And, you know, she, I won't tell you what her reaction was at first, but in any case, where we're at now, thanks to her help, is that we have this ability, or you very soon have this ability in your org to use that tile within Model Builder to connect to a large language model of your choice and use it within Salesforce. And so we've had lots of requests from customers that have said, you know, our approved standard is Llama or Mistral, or like there's this, you know, Databricks or IBM or some other model. And so this is really to unblock you as a customer to have that flexibility to do whatever you need to do for Gen AI. Okay, so before we go to the demo, and we have a nice interactive demo that will show off all the stuff I'm talking about, but before we do that, I just want to have Chanu just address, even if you're a developer and you normally wouldn't get involved in the legal speak, I think her perspective on what this means for you to actually bring your own model, she has a great perspective on it, so I want her point of view.
Sounds good. First, I know what everyone's thinking. Why is legal in a developer track, and who invited her here? So it was Darvish, and I know it says BYO LLM and not bring your own lawyer. Had to throw in a cheesy joke there, but it was important because in actuality, Darvish and I did work closely together for more than 6 months to develop connectors in general, as Darvish mentioned, but then one day he did come to me with the idea like, hey, how about an open connector where customers can bring anything? I did glitch a little bit. I was like, anything? Can you, like, how are you gonna make that happen? And how do we correctly inform to customers what that means in a legally compliant manner? So that's where we work together. So why do the legal terms matter here? How is this a unique offering from a customer control perspective? So as a Salesforce developer or customer, there are a few key takeaways to keep in mind. First, I'd like to distinguish this open model connector from Salesforce managed or Salesforce hosted models. With the open connector, there is an extra emphasis on customer control, enablement, and consent. Customers have to go in there and actually select the LLM vendor and provider that they choose to use, and actually take an extra step to enable that integration and connection that Darvish will show you. What that means is, from a legal perspective, that you're bringing your own direct relationships and agreements from your interactions with that LLM provider into the LLM usage space. So your direct terms and agreements would govern the LLM usage in Data Cloud. So that's where, compared to Salesforce managed or Salesforce hosted, Salesforce is doing the negotiating, offering some of these LLM vendors under the hood and providing some pass-through terms. So you can see some terms that come in place or acceptable use policies. But with the open connector, to summarize, your relationships, those terms would govern. And this is evidence in the Data Cloud Trust and Compliance documentation, which is publicly available. So there comes that nuance. And now you don't have to wait for Salesforce to actually go and negotiate these terms. You can bring your own connections into place and seamlessly integrate into the Salesforce universe. So I know there's a lot of legal talk here, so let's turn to the actual fun part, which is the demo. So let me set the stage a little bit. So for this demo, Darvish and I both work for a company called Chindar. Clearly made that up. And it's a Salesforce company. They use Salesforce. So I have an issue. So I will be acting as the service manager in this role. And I have an issue using generative AI with service cases. So I'm going to my friendly neighborhood Salesforce admin, soliciting some help to try to figure out how can we make this use case work. So, hey Darvish, how are you doing?
I'm well, Chanu, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, but I have this issue. I want to really use generative AI in Salesforce. However, I've been blocked by procurement and legal. They said I can only use a specific use case of Llama, a fine-tuned model of Llama in our own infrastructure, and I can't use Salesforce hosted or Salesforce managed models. They said we have our own agreement and terms in place,
okay.
so they want to use that. So could you show me how this could work? Because I did hear Salesforce came out with the open connector, and this could potentially unblock our use case of using generative AI in Salesforce.
Okay, Chanu, thanks for the background, and how ironic that you've been blocked by legal. So, let me play that back to you real quick.
Yes.
So what you're saying is your service agent team, you have some use cases that you want to use generative AI for.
Yes.
In Salesforce. However, you can't use any of the Salesforce managed models. You need to bring your instance of Llama.
Yes.
Okay, so Llama's a popular option. I know we've gotten a lot of requests. The great news is Salesforce released this new feature, as you mentioned, called the Open Connector, which we can now use to connect Llama or IBM Granite or Databricks DBRX or whatever one you want, but it sounds like you want Llama.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's start by understanding that what we need to do as a Salesforce developer or Salesforce IT person is, if you want to use the Open Connector, you need a REST API endpoint that is pointing at your model that conforms to the Salesforce Open Connector spec, right? Which is, if you look at the spec, it's a very common large language model API framework. And that spec is available today on our public GitHub site, which I have on the screen now. I do have a resource slide at the end of the deck with the QR code, so you'll be able to get all this, and I have links to all the stuff that we're going to show. So that's the first thing to understand. Now, also on this page, it's not just the spec, but it's also some really great samples that our CX team, Richard and Yuvi, put together for us. There's 3 fully end-to-end full code and all the stuff that you can go look at to understand, like, how could I use this API as a developer to connect XYZ model into Salesforce, right? So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Sounds good.
Okay. Now, let's build out your use case by going in to Salesforce. And the place I'm going to start is in Einstein Studio Model Builder within Data Cloud. Right, and this is where the UX is to be able to do the connection to Llama for you, right? Okay, so what I'm going to start with is I'm going to go to the Generative tab. Now, when I click on the Generative tab, you're going to see there's a bunch of models in there, right? And many of these are the Salesforce managed ones. So you got OpenAI and Anthropic and so on and so forth. But what we need to do for your use case, Chanu, is we need to click the Add a Foundation Model button. And when I do that, you'll notice that I now have this new option, Connect to your LLM. And that's what we're going to pick. So we're on our way to building out your service agent use case. All I need to do is to go into this screen, and in this screen, it's going to require a certain set of inputs. It's pretty simple to understand on the face of it. You need a REST API compliant endpoint that's pointing at the model of your choice. Llama in this case, but yes, like I said, it could be whatever you prefer. That API endpoint, from our point of view, we are agnostic about both the provider platform or the hosting platform and the model itself, right? So customers have different preferences about where they're going to do these things in a cloud platform, maybe even in your own infrastructure. We're agnostic about the endpoint. As long as the endpoint aligns with the spec, and that's the key part, right? There's work to be done to make sure that your API endpoint is ready, and that's why I have that GitHub repo for you. Okay, so once we've done that, the next thing we're going to do is actually enter those details in, and I've already entered them in. And what you will end up with is an artifact in Model Builder that is essentially a connection to that instance of your large language model. In this case, it's a connection to Llama, right? Now that we have done that, that's the admin part of the exercise. It's pretty straightforward, right? I enter my API endpoint, my creds, and now I have Llama, okay?
Follow along, yeah.
So we are about to be able to unblock your use case now. Now, I'm going to hand it over to myself, who is the prompt engineer in this scenario. And so what I'm going to do is go into our Prompt Builder product, which is available. You can turn it on in setup within your org. And in Prompt Builder, what I'm going to do to tackle Chanu's use case is it's actually very straightforward. Now, let me make sure I have this right. So you have service agents that are often, let's just say they're new to the organization, and they're about to meet with a strategic customer or have a call with the customer.
Correct.
And what you told me is that they might not have the context, they might not have the background with that customer, and you want a way to use generative AI to just quickly summarize some data for them.
Yes.
Right? Does that sound right?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, yeah. And so what I've done in this prompt, which is, by the way, very simple by design just for the demo today, is I've told it that I want it to deliver a experience where the user can just click a button and have all the open cases and the opportunities for a given customer summarized very quickly. All right, so you'll notice that I've inserted the merge fields within this prompt, and what that means is that it's going to be natively grounded on the data that your agents are collecting within Salesforce.
Yeah.
Right, super easy to do. If you haven't played with Prompt Builder, I highly encourage you to do it. It's an amazing tool. Now, the other part about this is that Prompt Builder is the place where I select from either the standard models or the custom models on the right-hand drop-down. And in this case, I have several custom models, but we're going to use Llama for the demo since that's what Chanu asked for. And that gives you the ability, once you've established a connection to your LLM, whatever it is, to have it available in both Prompt Builder and also via the Models API, which is a session I'm going to give later. So you can do either, you can go fully custom code, or you can use Prompt Builder. For Chanu's use case, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to use Prompt Builder for this. Okay, so prompt is done. I saved my prompt and I activate it in my org. Very straightforward. The next step is to actually build the UX that your users are going to consume.
Yes.
And if I understand the requirements, Chanu, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it's pretty straightforward, right? It's just basically they're sitting in Service Cloud, right?
Yeah, there are service agents in Service Cloud.
Okay. So I have a standard Salesforce page pulled up. This could be literally any page, it doesn't matter. I don't care what object it is or what page it's on. On this page for Chanu's use case, what I did is if you look at the details, I simply added a text field onto this page. And I've called it, I'll zoom in a little bit for you. I called it PB Case and Opti Summary, right? PB standing for Prompt Builder, just for the demo. And that text field, if you look at the properties of that text field, there's an option to connect a text field now in Salesforce to a generative AI prompt template. So I've hooked up the prompt template that you saw on my last screen to this field to help meet your requirements, right?
Yeah.
So far, so good?
So far, so good.
Okay.
It looks like I'm potentially unblocked here.
I mean, we're talking about app development in 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
From scratch to completion. Okay, so I'm just gonna now pretend that I'm a service agent. I'm about to talk to this customer, Acme, and I have no background on them. And so what this allows me to do, we get this little sparkly Einstein generative AI button here, and if I click that, what will happen is it's going to open up the UX there on the right for Gen AI, and it is looking at the instructions that I gave it in the prompt to ground it on those Salesforce data elements, and it's going to make a call out to Llama in my infrastructure, which is sitting wherever you prefer, right? And then it's going to come back, you saw it came back pretty quickly, right? It's going to come back with the summary that her agents need. It tells me which cases are open, tells me which opportunities are open, and also identifies who the top contacts at this account are. So literally like in 15 seconds, that agent is now given the high-level context they need to have the conversation with the customer.
It'll surely speed up my agent's work, and that's what I'm looking to do here.
Perfect. Now, now I'm doing a simple demo here, but there's all kinds of things that developers could do here. You could instantiate flows, you could call out to Apex, like there's all kinds of cool stuff you could do. Keeping it simple for the amount of time I have for the session. And last but not least, you'll notice that I get a standard chat experience here in the Gen AI window here. And so what that means is that when the agent uses this, they could ask more questions of the data if they need to send out to Llama to get a response. So what's a typical example of something the agent might need to do?
Well, my agents might want to see which case has been open the longest, so if they have to talk to the customer and figure out what the issue might be, that's a key request.
Okay. We can do that. So that customer might have lots of cases and they just want to know which one's been open. Okay, perfect. So I'll just type in which case has been open the longest, and it immediately comes back and gives me that response. So the key takeaway, though, again, for developers is if you have the API endpoint to your model, all of the stuff I'm doing here is calling out to Llama, right? And so you have full control over that, whatever's happening on that side. It's fine-tuned, you're using RAG, whatever. Okay, so I'm out of time. Thank you very much. Is that going to meet the requirements?
It's going to be, I'm unblocked by legal and procurement, so that sounds like a winning day for me.
Excellent, excellent. So that's the demo. Real quick, I'm going to pull up, there's a slide with a QR code here. I have, at that location, you can find all the resources, including the GitHub link, and there is all kinds of information there. So go ahead and grab that if you want to. And really appreciate folks spending some time with us. Chanu, thank you very much. Great job.
Thank you, Darvish.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for
Take care.
coming. Thanks.